Good evening and welcome to the Lower Frederick Township Board of Supervisors General Meeting. It is August 6, 2024. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everybody who is on the roll call on your agenda is present. Announcements. Township meetings are recorded for the purpose of preparing the minutes, and the recording is destroyed after the minutes are approved. The meeting will be posted on the Township YouTube channel. The link can be found on the Board of Supervisors page on the Township website. It is requested that all persons wishing to speak before the board shall state their name, address, and the subject matter upon which they wish to speak for the record. In the interest of facilitating the business of the board, all persons addressing the board shall be limited to 3 minutes unless such time is extended by the chair for good cause. Individuals are requested to remain in their seats and to respect when other persons are speaking. The Board of Supervisors will provide a reasonable opportunity for citizens to comment on any non-agenda items after all agenda items have been addressed, but prior to the adjournment of the public meeting. First item, administrative actions. We do not have any minutes to approve. Next item, treasurer's report.
Okay, so this is through July 31st. Total revenue for the general fund, $1.69 million, which is $6,500 under budget. It's up 4.9% from last year. Total expense is $1.610 million. That's $77,000 under budget. That's up 29.3% from last year. The net income as of July 31st is $79,859. The budgeted net income is $9,180. Net income and performance is 769% over budget. Revenue budget is under budget by 0.4%. The township is running on or above budget for most line items. Notable exceptions are interest in EIT surpassing budget by a total of 6.8%, while real estate transfer, building permits, and the fire hydrant assessment are below budget by 32.8%. We've received 70.1% of our 2024 budgeted revenue. Township expenses are on or close to budget for most line items. Our expenses are below budget by 4.5%. Expenses are under primarily for police wages, health insurance, and legal. Expenses are over for admin wages, property and liability insurance, admin office technology, building repair and utilities, engineering, public works vehicle repair, and planning, zoning, other service charges. We've spent 56.7% of our 2024 budgeted expense. The general capital reserve. In July, we received the Farmview Estate Prestige Development contribution payment for the fee in lieu of park and recreation lane and contribution for benches trail signs for the open space trail totaling $61,410.74. The net income is $45,155 with expenses totaling $219,848 so far in 2024. The sewer fund, overall revenue surpassing budget by 34.1% or $315,675. We received the sewer connection tap-in fee contribution for the Farmview Estate Prestige Development totaling $311,020.92, which is 42 connections, along with the 34 sewer connection tap-in fees that we've received so far as part of the Fulmer Road, Riverside Avenue sewer extension connections. We have one property with 4 EDUs who's utilizing the payment plan that's not part of those 34. Expenses are on or close to budget for most line items. Repair and maintenance is well under, while sludge hauling, supplies, chemicals, sewer line extension, and insurance bonding are over budget. The fund made another refund for dormant EDUs in July. Sewer expenses are over budget by 7.6%. The net income is $610,625, which is $271,399 over budget. The fund has earned 101.5% of its revenue budget and spent 47.6% of its expense budget. The pump station contribution was received for the Farmview Estate Prestige Development in the amount of $42,000 and was deposited into the sewer capital fund. Liquid fuels, the fund has earned 108.3% of its revenue budget and spent 61.3% of its expense budget. The actual net income is negative $59,805, which is $5,030 over budget. The 2024 oil and chip project was completed in June. Open space fund, the net income is $58,959. Total available dollars with current allocations for property conservation easement grant and county agricultural preservation is $220,965. Expenses so far have been for EIT commission and appraisals. The ARPA COVID relief fund, the total available dollars with the current allocations for the Montco 2040 grant project, Zieglerville Road Drainage Project, Coble Phase 1 project, the PD remodeling Phase 1, Township Building Generator Upgrade, and the Stormwater Culvert projects is $96,130. Are there any questions?
Any questions or comments from the board?
So what you're saying is for Farmview, we received all of our upfront money in one payment?
They were separate checks, but yes, we got it. We got it all together.
Good.
Not hearing any other questions, I'll move on to payment of the bills. Pardon me? Go ahead, Bob.
How's everybody doing tonight? All right. Glad to see that the payments for the sewer were paid by that developer. It was something I was bringing up many times ago, and I'm glad to see that that happened. Now, I've also brought up to the board many times, what are we doing with this money that's coming in from not only there, but also at Fulmer and Riverside, the EDU money? As I explained before, it's in A, B, and C is how it's divided. And if that money just goes into the general fund, it can be used for whatever, like it's been all along. You know, we lost all the money that we had before that we got from Arcadia, 39 homes there, the 150,000 they put in. If we don't lock this money down right now and put it in the appropriate places, it's just going to get filtered through. So is it something that the board can kind of drill down on and get this thing squared away?
I think we'll discuss that in more detail at budget season, but just to make a correction, any money from the sewer fund goes into the sewer fund. It does not go into the general fund.
I didn't say the general fund. What I said is it goes into the sewer fund. So if you think about.
Okay, fine. But, and also the money we received from Arcadia was used to cover expenses because the sewer fund has been in deficit until recently. So that's where that money went, to pay for running of sewage plant and other expenses.
Okay, so that's.
It wasn't frittered away.
So there was 39 EDUs for there. There's supposed to be 41. I don't believe the other two are hooked in yet. If they are, then I'm mistaken. But there was 39 there, and then we had all these single ones, up on Perkiomen and everywhere else. So all that money should be going into the general capital or somewhere.
The sewer capital.
Yes, the sewer capital, where, as I said, the EDU, $7,405.26. It's broken down into three categories, an A, a B, and a C. Mr. Bird's been asking for over a year and a half, where is this money going to? Okay? And we just sit here and we just keep on passing the buck on it. I'm asking you guys, I don't think it's really a budget thing. I think it's something that we really need to figure out where it is and where it's going and get put in those buckets where it belongs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just to follow up, Bob, I believe Jason is working on this, updating the self-liquidating debt report, and then you will see how that money is flowing into that capital fund, okay?
Okay, well, I was under the impression that the self-liquidating debt report is only done when the loan was done, so
But
the
it can
last,
be, no, it can be updated, and what you want to look is you want to see how the capital fund is growing over time.
okay,
Right, so that'll all be part of it.
Right, so-
That's what I asked Jason to do at a prior meeting, and I know he's working on that. So then it'll be apparent how that money that has come in now from Farmview is finding its way into the capital portion of the account as opposed to it being consumed by operating expense.
that's fine. All I'm saying is that since there's an A, B, and C, we
I'm just
should
letting
think-
you know it's being taken care of.
I just want to make sure it's going in the right buckets, that's all.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
It's Robert Griffin. I'm just asking for conditional use of my property and for your consideration, made an initial donation to the general fund for the open space committee or whatever you guys feel it's best utilized. I really appreciate all your time and look forward to being a member of the community. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to get to the payment of the bills. Do we have any that have to be taken out for Saks and Sons?
No.
We do not. Great. Okay. So we have bills to be paid in the general fund in the amount of $126,897.92, and the sewer fund of $86,842.53. General capital reserve $7,769.46, and ARPA COVID relief $4,436.51. Any questions about any of these from the board? Nope. Is someone ready to make a motion to approve payment and pay these bills? Unless anyone objects, we can do one motion.
So I'll make a motion that we pay all bills in the general fund, sewer fund, general capital reserve fund, and ARPA COVID relief funds as stated by our chair.
Thank you. So we had the motion by Supervisor Yiser, the second by Supervisor Halter. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. That brings us to professional and staff reports. We'll start with the engineer.
Thank you. So this is an informational update on ongoing projects in the township. The first is Arcadia Station, where the project is substantially complete. They are approaching closeout and dedication. Prestige Builders or Farmview Estates, the work is underway. This is a 42-home development on Little Road. The contractor has completed site clearing, installed erosion and sediment control facilities, and started to stockpile topsoil and grade the basins and berm on the east side of the property. The Springmount Road Sidewalk Project, that's a project that's being funded by the Montgo 2040 grant in large part. That project is currently out for bid and is live on PennBid. The Melbourne Hill development, it's our understanding the builder plans to schedule a pre-construction meeting for that project in weeks to come. The Zieglerville Road drainage project work has been substantially completed. Remaining items on that project include restoration of a mulch garden bed and sealing the joints of the new pavement on the driveways. The flood barriers for the wastewater treatment plant, we understand are shipping early this month. They're being delivered to the contractor's location for convenient offloading and then being brought to the township. So we're expecting installation to be underway this month. The Sandbrook subdivision, plans for installation of a trench drain across the Lot 2 driveway were approved back on May 8th. Plans to instead install a driveway pipe were submitted July 23rd and were returned with comments for correction that same day, and we are awaiting submission of a revised plan. Those are really the only items that are new on my report, so I'll pause there unless the board has any questions about other particular projects.
I have a couple questions. So I understand there's still a lot of dead trees at Arcadia Station that need to be replaced. I mean, I know it's not the right time of year to do that, but I think they're also the trees they donated that we planted in one of our parks that are also dead. So are all of those going to be replaced by them?
Yes, that is a requirement. So we have a promise from the landscaper to replace, I think it was 2 at Coble Park, and we are requiring the developer to replace, it was a rather large number that were in questionable condition during the inspection, and we're requiring those to be replaced at this point, too. So that's really the primary issue outstanding towards their dedication.
Well, maybe they can plant them a little later in the year so they have a better chance of survival. And then
One would hope.
the other question I had was, so I recall that we asked Mr. Sambrick to complete the work by August 31st, which we're fast approaching. Is there any likelihood that'll happen? Because it seems as if not much progress is being made on that.
Yeah, so his engineer sent me a plan July 23rd. I literally reviewed it and turned it around the same day. It looks like while I was driving here tonight, I got an email from his engineer, so maybe something's happening. I will take a look at that and see. I'm trying to help them move it forward any way I can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. All right, that brings us to solicitor report. I looked for hands, I didn't see one. Go ahead.
Hi, Diane Joran, Zieglerville Road. There's going to be a lot happening in our community with all the developments going in. And I'm just wondering if communication about what's going to happen can somehow be put out there. I know that Carol has pre-construction meetings, so they talk about, here's what we're going to do first. We're going to make our inroad. We're going to take these trees down. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Is there any way that that information can get to the public so that when we drive by, it's not a big shock to us? I'm just asking. I just think people would like to have that information. So just like you to think about that. So I think we won't have to make emergency emails or calls to like, oh my God, I didn't know all those trees were going to go down. I didn't know it was going to be that wide. I didn't know that pathway from Coble Park to the Farm View was going to go in right away. We'd kind of know what is expected, what Carol has talked to the developers about, what she knows is going to happen, and that it's happening with approval. So, and we know about it. So that's my request. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, solicitor report.
Nothing other than the conditional use decision, which is on the main agenda.
All right. Township staff reports, police.
Thank you. For the month of July, we had 317 total police service calls. Officers conducted 41 traffic stops. 27 of those stops, citations were issued. We responded to 8 vehicle crashes during the month of July, which is a significant increase compared to the previous month. Members of the department attended and participated in active shooter training. Members of the department attended training for conducting recorded interviews of suspects and witnesses that was hosted and instructed by the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office. Members of the police department attended the concert in the park, which had a good turnout, and we're not aware of any problems that occurred. The police department will be staffed during Folk Fest weekend. In your packet provided several news releases, one of which we made an arrest in the vandalism turfing incident at Colonial Park. And we have several ongoing investigations that we're waiting for approval to be able to release the information to you guys, but it is pending review from the district attorney's office. One of which has been going on for several months. Through the course of the investigation, additional charges have been added. That's why I don't have anything to be able to provide tonight. And if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Are there any questions? Any questions from the public? Go ahead.
So with respect to the turfing incident over at.
Sorry, can you state your name
I'm
and-
sorry, Dan Orff, Pratt's Road, my fault. I should have said that up front. With respect to the turfing incident at Colonial Park, will there be any restitution made to the township with respect to that?
So we were provided the cost to replace the damage, and that'll be worked out when it goes to the hearing at district court. But that's part of the agreement is going to be, he needs to pay for the restitution for the damage between the manpower to replace it, the turf or the seed. Well, I'm not sure what we were using, but that is part of the prosecution.
Okay, that's great to hear. Thank you. And just a quick question related to the park, Colonial Park. Do you think if there was like split rail fencing to stop, like most of the parking lots we have at our parks have split rail fencing to stop you from driving onto the park, do you think that would be something the Park and Rec group should consider? Because the person would have had a lot harder time doing what they did if there was fencing.
And any type of fencing or any type of deterrent will make somebody think twice about doing it. I also, in my experience, where there's a will, there's a way. So if it's not right at the park, they'll go somewhere else, but a deterrent is better than nothing.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Fire company?
All right, I'm Scott Angstead. I'm the fire chief. For the month of July, we had a total of 15 calls. 6 of those were in Lower Frederick, 4 in Schwanksville, 3 in Upper Salford, 1 in Perkiomen, and 1 in Upper Frederick. This past weekend, we had our annual steak night. It was a very well-attended success, actually. It's our biggest money maker throughout the year. We're actually maybe kicking the idea of having another one in the spring, because it kind of has a really good following right now. The sign that we got approved is going to be installed within a week, and hopefully we can use that for putting out public notices and other things, such as the weather event that's going to happen the next few days with the storms coming up north. Just be extremely careful out there. Assume that all down wires are live and don't go up to them, stay away from them. And the other big thing is with the flooding, don't cross any flooded roads, of course. Just for the public's awareness, 12 inches of water can actually move a vehicle when it's moving slowly across a road. 6 inches of fast-moving water can actually move most cars. And 2 foot of water will move a truck and SUV. So the power of water is incredible. It just has no mercy, and it does what it wants to do. So as far as the worst case scenarios we've ever had, and I don't know whether this one's going to be like that or not, but basically it gets to the point where we can't go south on 29 anywhere because everything's closed off, and we can't go on the other side of the Perkiomen. And Salford Station Road is the only road that usually we can get by until it really gets flooded, and besides that, it's closed off. Going north, Deep Creek Road has gotten closed the last couple of incidences, and also 29 going over the creek there has gotten closed. So basically the only way it's going out is Big Road 73 and the roads leading over to Limerick from Meng Road over. Just for references, I don't, people who work out of the area and haven't experienced this before, a lot of times have to go a long way to get around. And a lot of times it involves going from like Culpsville, if you want to get over to that area, up to Quakertown, down 73, or 663 to 73, or the other way, get out and get onto 422 and go down to like Audubon and come across to get to the Valley Forge area. So as far as the public's concerned, so, all right. Any other questions for me?
Thank you, and let's all hope we don't have any of those events.
I agree.
We've been lucky the last couple of years, but you never
Yes,
know.
yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Do we have an ambulance report?
Yes, so this is for the month of through July 2024. They had 18 calls in Lower Frederick Township for a year-to-date total of 110. In their primary coverage area, which is Limerick, Perkiomen, Schwenksville, Upper Frederick, and Upper Salford, they had 65 in the month of July for a year-to-date total of 462. And then mutual aid, which is outside the primary coverage area, they had 40 in the month of July for a year-to-date total of 367. And they did note any township resident interested in ambulance membership, please call 610-277-2776, extension 1.
Thank you. Any questions about the ambulance report? Nope. Okay. Public Works?
Okay, so the Public Works performed the following work in addition to their routine operations in the month of July. They had 2 sump pump sewer inspections for UNOs. They continued mowing the township properties, continued roadside mowing. They started the police department renovations, worked with the police department painting speed enforcement lines on various roads, continued filling the gators for the trees at Ketty Park, patch paved the culvert replacement trenches for Meadow Lane and Alexander Drive, and attended a pre-construction meeting for the Farmview Estate Prestige development.
Thank you. Let's move on to Township Board and Commission reports. EAC?
The EAC met on July 8th, and our committees reported to each other. The Green Energy Committee provided the July Did You Know? That has been posted on our website. What appliances use the most electricity in your home? And also there's a link to PECO's energy audit program that can help you conserve energy. The Stormwater Committee is receiving another consultation from the Perkiomen Watershed Conservancy at a neighborhood stormwater basin. This is to identify invasive plants that could be removed as a future project. They will also be identifying native plants to encourage water infiltration. The committee is working to schedule an educational program for residents on stormwater management, and it's likely to be in February when they actually have time because they're very busy people. The Outdoor Lighting Committee reported on studies to identify the actual effects of reduced street lighting on crime and road safety. While there is variability in the data, overall there's no association of the amount of crime and collisions with lighting levels, which is interesting and surprising because we all think the brighter it is, the safer we are. The committee is reviewing other studies and will continue the discussion and bring you that information. The aim is to help residents understand the pros and cons of outdoor lighting as our world is losing the ability to see the stars. The EAC discussed a PA website that lists municipalities that have implemented single-use plastic bags, and we want to follow up on the reception of their residents. Also, we discussed in our little burg that doesn't have a lot of, plastic bag use. We only have a few places that provide that, but a way to address it is find a way to remind shoppers to take their reusable bags. We pretty much all have them now in our houses. We just have to remember to take them. We furthered our discussion on implementing a program to recognize and publicize properties that have actively been trying to enhance their natural habitat. This led to our discussion of Section Q of the Township Property Maintenance Code, which currently limits plant growth of grass and vegetation things other than shrubs or trees to 12 inches of height on properties that are less than 1 acre. It doesn't affect properties over 1 acre. Generally, Pennsylvania has been actively encouraging residents to reduce lawn area and promote native plants. So we hope to provide the township with recommendations to bring this section of our township code into alignment with overall stormwater, clean air, and clean water goals. Birdtown Committee is moving ahead with the Park Board and township staff to implement recycling containers being placed at some of our township parks. I think our township manager is helping with that. Public Works has also said they can assist in erecting bluebird boxes that we have, and we have marked the locations at Cuddy and Colonial Parks. Public Works will install the poles to mount these on. Excuse me. Two residents attended our July meeting to bring information on the health of beech trees to our area. And they brought information that they have sadly learned firsthand that there is a beech tree disease that is affecting all beech trees within all of our counties in Pennsylvania and the Northeast. What we hope to do, because it is a fatal disease, and there's not much you can do about forests of beech trees, but if you have an individual beech tree that you love on your yard, there may be some things to do. One is a pesticide injection, the other is a possible potassium-based fertilizer, soil soak. So we'll be giving more information about this. And we really thank those residents for bringing that to our attention. It's great. This month's Did You Know is if you're thirsty, they're thirsty. During the hot, dry summer, our native pollinators need refreshment too. We will provide a link to an article on how to make a simple water source to support pollinators. Thank you. Any questions? All righty.
I want to thank you for highlighting the options for native plants that may be 12 inches or taller. I think as long as they're not, intentionally letting grass grow, if it is intentional, that is good for everything. So hopefully we can get to work on that.
Yes, and I think that we're just trying to find what other areas do, and to keep it really as least intrusive to our residents and best to support native plants. So we'll be coming back to you with information.
Diane, for what it's worth, and this is a very distant memory, when we looked at adopting the property maintenance code, I think it was like 2009 version of it, I remember the planning commission asking for some exceptions, meaning that we didn't adopt everything as it's written. And some of it had to do with weeds and things like that, which I think falls under what you're talking about. And I don't recall whether or not when the board actually, whether they took our recommendation and adopted it with those sections out of it. Somebody would have to go back and find the minutes. So if you read the code as it is now, what I'm trying to say is we may have adopted that code, taking certain pieces out of it, and that might have been one of them.
And the board did. You went with the highest height, which was 12 inches, that the state had recommended you could fill in. There's also some wording about cultivated gardens and plants. So that's where it gets a little dicey, because when people do their meadows, they are cultivating that. Will it be seen as that? Because it's not flowers necessarily all the time, like in a garden area.
So you've seen the wording that the board actually adopted?
Yes.
Then. Okay, fine.
Yes.
That's all I wanted to.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep. And
great.
that's what we're looking into. Anything else?
Yeah, and you'd want to exempt rain gardens as well, which may not necessarily have flowers.
Right. So how to go about it with the least words that are easily interpreted for everybody.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Open Space Committee?
Good evening. This is Andrew Lang reporting for the Open Space Committee. The committee met on July 10th, and during this meeting, we discussed and reviewed continuing efforts to explore protections and provisions for our open space agreements to ensure that the open space status cannot be removed or revoked in the future. This effort, again, was spurred by some recent developments in some neighboring townships where the open space status of properties was revoked. Specifically, we reviewed guidelines from Natural Lands, the Heritage Conservancy, and We Preserve PA, which is another land use organization in the area. And we saw that they had numerous resource guides and model documents to better ensure the establishment of thorough open space protections. So we're going to be reviewing these documents in the near future and seeing how they might be integrated into our planning process going forward. The committee also reviewed a property opportunity presented by the Heritage Conservancy for the donation of a preservation easement on property in the township. Again, this easement would be donated, and the only cost associated with establishing it would be project costs for the efforts. And at the meeting, the committee approved a motion to recommend to the Board of Supervisors an allocation from the Open Space Fund to cover 50% of the cost of this project, representing an amount not to exceed $9,000. Lastly, the committee reviewed outreach efforts to better inform residents about the activities of the committee and to connect the committee with prospective landowners. We'll be looking at these efforts more thoroughly during our next meeting on August 14th. That is it for my update. I can answer any questions that the supervisors or anyone else might have.
I don't have a question, but if anyone's interested in the case that they're referring to in particular, it's Upper Pottsgrove, which permanently preserved a piece of land using open space funds, and the township is now wants to build a municipal building on that property. So there's a lawsuit going on. So there's a lot of press about that if anyone's interested. So that's what we're trying to avoid. Some future board has a different idea for the use of open space. We don't want them to do anything with it if it's been purchased with our open space money.
Correct.
All right, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Park and Recreation Board? I don't see Pam, who's representing the Park Board.
I'm on Zoom
Oh,
tonight.
there you are, Pam. Okay.
This is Pam Wright from the Park Board. We had our August meeting last night. We have several upcoming events. We have Stories in the Park at Coble Park on August 15th, starting at 10 o'clock. Our third and final concert of the season will be Slim and the Percolators at Cuddy Park on August 22nd at 7 o'clock. Our next book club discussion is on the book How to Age Disgracefully, which is an interesting read by Claire Pooley. And it will be August 17th at 10:30 at Cuddy Park. Again, we've got good free food and a really good discussion, so come on out. Planning is being completed for the Perkiomen Railroad Walk, starting at Foy Park on September 14th at 10 a.m. And we will be doing Movie on the Mountain again in cooperation with the Upper Salford and Upper Fred townships at Spring Mount in the lower parking lot on Saturday, September 7th. Rain date is the 14th. Gates open at 6:30. Come with the kids and tailgate. The movie we're going to be showing is Wish. And we'll have Mr. Softy and free popcorn, so come on out. I'd like to thank everyone who has donated used books for our little libraries. We've gotten a couple boxes in the lobby. We've had a good turnout of children's and adult reading materials. We're going to maintain a collection box in the lobby of the township building, so thank you very much for everyone who's participating in that. And trunk or treat will be October 20th, noon to 3 at Foy Park. So those parties want to start planning on participating and thinking about what they want to do with their trunks in preparation for that. And that's all I have for tonight. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Pam. Any questions? Okay. Planning Commission?
Phil Smith, Planning Commission Recording Secretary. The Planning Commission did not meet in July, though one of the possible agenda items that we would like to entertain in the future meetings would be that of a grant application to the county for a 2025 implementation grant. And as you're well aware, the township currently has successfully received one of those grants from the county to do the sidewalk section between the township building and the fire home or firehouse. And those kind of applications take a number of months. So I'm here basically to see whether there's an appetite by the Board of Supervisors to want to see the Planning Commission explore the possibility of a 2025 grant during the next couple of months so we can get our application in by the March 1st due date, which is the anticipated due date for the county's applications or for the grant program applications. So I guess my request at this moment is there a willingness or an encouragement from the board to the Planning Commission to have that conversation so we can bring forward to you a possible project? As you're well aware, our comprehensive plan has tried to set connections as a high priority, especially in our village areas, to enable the population in those high density areas to gain access to our village centers and other amenities. So that said, it would be advantageous for us to look for funding other than through our own coffers from the county to help, provide the means in which to do that. And with the grant application match of 20% from the township and 80% provided by the county, it's a wonderful opportunity for us to gain those funds to do those kind of projects that would be very difficult to do otherwise. So I guess my question is the board willing to encourage the Planning Commission to bring forward some proposals for you to entertain?
I don't think there'd be any objection, I'm assuming, from any board member to hear a proposal. It doesn't mean we would approve it, but we certainly will hear them. I will make one suggestion just for myself. If you create a smaller working group of a subset of the Planning Commission, as long as you don't have, a quorum, and work on this in between your meetings, it'll be a lot quicker and more efficient than waiting for your monthly meeting.
Yeah, as I previously said, these things take a number of months to try to put together the planning and the designs necessary to
Right,
to
but
make a good
if you
application,
only
so.
work on it at your monthly meetings,
Yeah.
as happened in the past, that was a lot more time consuming. Like I said, if you had a group of 2 or 3 persons, and it didn't even have to be all Planning Commission people, to prepare a proposal for a meeting, and then the Planning Commission could consider it. And then if the Planning Commission agreed, then you could bring it before the board, and then we would hear it.
Yeah, so tonight, I'm just basically looking to see whether or not you're interested in hearing that opportunity, and we will put that as an agenda item at our next meeting and come back to you with some ideas.
What does everyone else feel?
Yes.
I agree. I'm good.
Yep. Okay, so again, I mean, we're going to hear a proposal. It doesn't mean we're going to
No,
approve it,
absolutely.
but go forth, and absolutely, it's already August, so
Yeah, very good. Thank you
get
so much.
cracking. Thank you. All right, now we're moving to the business portion of our meeting. The first item is the Open Space Committee request, and we have Matt, is it Matt?
Yeah,
We have Matt on from Heritage Conservancy if we have any questions, although it looks pretty straightforward. Do you want to start, Jason?
Yeah, so this property was originally discussed last year by the OAC, but was not chosen to move forward based on the criteria then. But since then, the property owner who's started working with Heritage Conservancy has chosen to donate the land preservation that Andrew mentioned this during the open space update. Heritage will cover 50% of the project costs and would hold the easement, and the property is 16.3%, 16.3 acres. The OAC voted to move forward at their July 10th meeting. We do have Matt Babbitt via Zoom if the board has any questions prior to making a decision.
I don't have questions. I just want to state for the record, because of the proximity of my home to this property, that I'm going to recuse myself. Is that the right thing to do, Peter?
You certainly can. It's not a legal obligation on your part. But if you're more comfortable doing so, then go right ahead.
Unlike others who are much farther up the food chain in our government, I think it's the right thing to do.
The only question I have is the $9,000, which I'm assuming is half of a possible $18,000. Is that a reasonable amount to cover everything that's needed? Is there a little bit of wiggle room built in there? I'm just wondering where that amount came from.
The 9,000 would be half of 18, which was the higher end of the estimated costs.
Okay, thank you. And we certainly have plenty of money in the open space fund. So I have no objection. Anyone else on the board have any questions?
I don't have questions. We're doing the motion tonight, or is it just to keep moving forward? Do we need a motion?
This would be the motion to move forward.
Okay.
You all right? Any questions? No. Okay. Then would someone like to make the motion to authorize the funding of 50% of the project cost towards land preservation? Again, this is 16.3 acres of a property known as Open Space Committee Property Number 45, not to exceed $9,000.
Also move.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Supervisor Halter made the motion. Supervisor Byrd made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously with 4 votes, and we have 1 recusal. That's Supervisor Yiser. Thank you. Thank you for coming, Matt. That was pretty quick.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the cable franchise agreement with Verizon.
Yes.
Don't have to ask twice. Yes. So just like we did with Comcast 2 years ago, we hired a telecommunications firm out of Pittsburgh as part of a consortium of municipalities here in Montgomery County to negotiate with Verizon a new franchise agreement. I've worked with this law firm for well over a decade. They're excellent. They do a good job, and in my mind, I know for a fact, because I have clients that try to do this on their own, that Comcast and Verizon will not give the individual clients into certain things where they will in these consortiums, because I've asked Comcast and Verizon the exact same thing the consortiums ask, and as an individual municipality, and they have flat out refused. Plus, I think it definitely costs the township less. So what we have in front of you is a result of these negotiations. I think if you've read the memo on the negotiations from Cohen, you'll understand that these things have gotten much harder over the last probably 5 years with the shift to streaming, cutting cable, and those sorts of changes in our viewing habits, which result in a loss of income through this agreement because video sent over the internet, we don't get franchise fees from. We only get it from cable. And furthermore, I think the cable companies are getting leery into signing long-term agreements because I think they see sometime in the future when cable may no longer be financially feasible and they will just become internet providers. So that's where we stand. We have an agreement that I think probably gets us as much as we possibly can. It certainly gets us the maximum franchise fee allowed under federal law. And it gets us, it's only for 5 years. The old agreements all were 10 or 12 years. But that's something Verizon absolutely insisted on. With that, I'm just looking for authorization to advertise at this point in time. And then it will be advertised sometime in the future. There is one issue with the agreement I'm working with Cohen over, who's talking to Verizon. Hopefully, if we can work that out, it will be on the agenda for our work session. If not, it may not be on the agenda until September.
Okay, so we can still go ahead and advertise this ordinance, though.
Yeah, once you, what I'm talking to Verizon about and Cohen doesn't affect the substance of the ordinance. And if you authorize me to advertise it, as soon as that's nailed down, I'll advertise it.
Gotcha, okay. So you'll get this issue nailed down?
Yes.
And then you'll advertise?
Yes.
All right. Any questions from the board? Yeah, the one part of it I liked, and I took a look through it, was where they cannot give discounts. If you bundle, they cannot give a bigger discount on the cable portion to reduce the portion they have to pay us.
Correct, yeah. When they bundle,
Yeah.
they don't have to pay franchise fees on the telephone or internet portions of that, just the cable. And I think the cable companies have been saying, oh, the discount only applies to cable and not those two, which all of a sudden has a massive impact on the
Exactly.
fees we're collecting.
Great. So I'll go ahead and make the motion. I move to authorize the township solicitor to advertise the adoption of an ordinance authorizing the execution of a cable franchise agreement between the township and Verizon Pennsylvania LLC. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Supervisor Hexter made the motion. Supervisor Halter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right. The next item is our conditional use order for 15 Gerloff Road.
Correct. So the board held a hearing at your regular meeting in July, which was July 2nd, on this application involving 15 Gerloff Road. It's a unimproved lot where the owner, Mr. Griffin, is seeking to put in a single-family home. He needs a on-lot septic system to service that home. They've done the perk testing, and the only place they could find that perked was in steep slopes. Under our ordinance, that is only allowed under a conditional use. Mr. Griffin's builder filed for this conditional use. The hearing was held. Mr. Griffin testified. We closed the hearing. The board had an executive session prior to the work session in July where this matter was discussed. Based on that executive session, I have prepared an adjudication in order granting this request. Once again, it's 9 pages long, so I'm not going to read through the whole thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the order and then read the conditions of approval. So the order is as follows. And now this 6th day of August, 2024, upon consideration of the foregoing findings of fact, discussion, and conclusions of law, and at a publicly advertised meeting, the Board of Supervisors of Lower Frederick Township hereby conditionally grants RB Ashley Customs LLC the conditional use requested in the application to locate the absorption field for an on-lot sanitary sewer sewage disposal system in an area of steep slopes upon the property located at 15 Gerloff Road in the township, otherwise referred to as Montgomery County Parcel Identification Number 3800-02122-018. Such grant being limited by, conditioned upon, and in compliance with the findings of fact, discussion, and conclusions of law set forth in the attached adjudication. There are 3 conditions that were attached to this approval, and that reads as follows. The board finds that the possible negative impacts of the approval of this application can be mitigated through applicant and the owner of the property meeting and complying with the following conditions of approval. Number 1, the project, the system in particular, shall be constructed in substantial compliance with the testimony and evidence presented at the hearing and in compliance with the conditions and limitations imposed by this adjudication. Number 2, the owner of the property shall enter into an operation and maintenance agreement with the township concerning the system. Such agreement to be prepared by the township solicitor. And I'll add, this is a common agreement. It's basically a form that I will modify. So it's nothing special or different for this particular applicant. And it generally just sets forth all the DEP requirements that he had to comply with anyways. And then number 3, in completing the project, applicant owner of the property shall comply with the recommendations requirements set forth in the June 5th, 2024 value review letter, which was entered as Exhibit B7 at the hearing. And I'm just looking for a motion to approve this.
Also move.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Chuck Yiser will second.
So Supervisor Halter made the motion, Supervisor Yiser made the second to approve this conditional use opinion and order. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And Mr. Griffin?
Oh,
This
sorry.
will
Do we
be
need a-
mailed, this will be mailed off to you tomorrow. Okay?
Do we need a resolution number?
Looks like there's a space for one.
Is there a space on it?
Looks like it's just a motion, or it's just a motion. Or is that a mistake?
Yeah, normally it's not done by resolution, but you can add a resolution number if
So
you
we
want
don't
to.
need, so we're fine.
Yes.
Okay, great, super. All right, I'm just gonna, okay, great. All right, thank you. Stay dry. All right, next item is the Simmons Road Truck Restriction Draft Ordinance.
My office was directed to prepare this ordinance, basically to restrict truck traffic on Simmons Road. I think this was, the catalyst for this is the possible closing of, not possible, but definite future closing of Little Road, and the worry that trucks will not be following the recommended detour, but rather be using Simmons because it's probably the quickest way, at least for smaller vehicles. So the ordinance is written, it would restrict truck traffic entirely along the entire length of Simmons Road for any vehicles larger than basically your regular pickup truck, unless those vehicles were making a local delivery, which means literally stopping at a house and dropping something off or picking something up along Simmons Road. I'm just looking for authorization to have this ordinance advertised. If I am so authorized, it will be advertised for adoption at the work session at the end of this month.
I have a question. What will the sign look like, and how will people know if it applies to them or not? That is, usually with trucks, you put a weight or something like that. What will the sign say?
There are standard PennDOT signs that we have to erect. We actually can't make up our own signs. I don't know specifically what this particular sign will say. I know I've seen signs that say no trucks allowed, local deliveries only. That would be something we'd have to look up and that Tommy would have to deal with. As far as whether someone has a question of, I'm not sure if my truck either complies or doesn't comply with the, falls under this restriction or doesn't, that's something they'd have to call the township and inquire, or, they could always look up the township code online. They're a little more, savvy how that works. But there is a definition of what constitutes a truck in our ordinance. And that's what we'd be following. Carol, you have something?
I might be able to help with that in a couple of ways. First of all, in the supervisor's packet at the very end of this category, there's an image of the detour plan. So the signs are actually to be put up by the developer who's placing this detour. There will be no truck signs installed as part of that, so it won't be the township's expense right now. The sign is just an image of a truck with a circle around it and a line through it, and it will say accepting local deliveries. Your township code, section 158-17 defines trucks. Says for the purpose of this section, truck is defined as any and all 3-axle trucks, any and all 4-axle trucks, and any and all tractor-trailer combinations. So that's how the township code is written, and I assume that's how the police department would enforce this requirement.
So, for example, the Amazon trucks will still be able to come through, the trash trucks will still come through, and landscapers cutting grass with a trailer will still be able to come through, because they are just doing local stuff.
Correct.
But if someone is doing that and not doing something local, they might be excluded.
Correct.
Okay.
As well as all emergency vehicles and all school buses
Yes.
are excluded from this restriction.
Yes. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, the map that you provided with the no truck signs, they're posted at Simmons Road. But if the detour if that's the last road before the detour, where do the trucks go? If they're heading towards the detour?
If they were coming down Little Road, the trucks should have turned when they saw the detour sign onto Perkiomen Avenue, the state highway, long before they got to this road. This is just a backup for that, so that your police can address it if people don't follow the detour with their big truck and try to go down Simmons Road, which in both directions really is not suitable for large trucks.
But most cars are going to continue until, if they know where the detour is, they'll continue to Simmons Road. So the trucks just have to do it one time to mess up and talk to our officers. That's how they learn?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, so would somebody like to make that motion? You can read it.
I move to authorize our solicitor to advertise amending Chapter 158 of the Codified Ordinances of Lower Frederick Township to prohibit trucks on Simmons Road.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Supervisor Halter made the motion. Supervisor Byrd made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to a quote for Springmount Road and Main Street base repair.
Okay, so the board could still choose to talk about this if they so wish, but as the solicitor, he let me know late today, we need to get we need to get 3 quotes. They can still talk?
They can talk and they can approve it.
Okay. We still need the 3 quotes.
When you guys actually implement it, that's when you have to go get the quote.
Oh, okay. Strike that.
Can you repeat that for the public? Thank you.
Although, so the issue that I brought up, and it was just a reminder, is that although we're using the equipment bid here, and ergo we don't have to bid out this project for the labor, because the project itself is still over the telephonic bid limit, the total project, the materials that the township is going to go buy, the township has to go get 3 written or telephonic quotes, and then, purchase the materials from the lowest quote. Furthermore, we have to make sure that the entire work does not exceed $23,200, because then that puts it into a public bidding requirement, and we would then have to publicly bid the materials. So what I was telling Jason was, you as a board, if you wish, can still approve moving forward on this project with the caveat that the total project does not cost more than $23,200. And, then he or Tommy goes and gets the telephonic quotes for the materials. So we don't have to wait for the quotes to come. We just have to, in implementing the board's direction, the township just has to do it right.
If I might interject here, the materials that are purchased from the quarry and the asphalt plant are under CoStars.
And then that's fine. Then we don't have to get the telephonic quotes.
So we're good to go.
Yes.
That's okay, great. All right. So the quote we have from Sachs and Sons, and I'm assuming you're recusing yourself from this discussion, Terry?
Yes, I would.
Okay, is for $17,960 for the base repair on Springmount Road and Main Street, and then $5,000 for asphalt material to be purchased from CoStars. So then the part about the not to exceed, we can just delete. Right, okay.
I would still keep it as a do not
Would
exceed.
still keep it, not to
Yes.
exceed 23,200 something, okay. All right. All right, any discussion from the board?
So this is basically the work that was described as option A in the bid package, right?
Exactly.
Earlier this year.
Yeah, the $11,000 in option A. And it's now 23,000.
And are we using ARPA funds, correct?
So my recommendation would be to use the ARPA funds for this, since we've got a bucket to use right now. Yep.
Any other discussion from the board? Nope. Okay, would someone like to make the motion?
I move to accept the quote from Sachs and Sons under the township's 2024 equipment bid in the amount of 17, do we need to fix any of these figures, or are we good with these?
It's all fine.
Okay. Equipment bid in the amount of $17,960 for base repair work on Springmount Road and Main Street, along with $5,000 of asphalt material to be purchased by the township for a total not to exceed $23,200, and further authorize the township manager to sign all necessary paperwork to complete the project.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Supervisor Halter made the motion. Supervisor Byrd made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously with 4 votes, and we have 1 recusal from Supervisor Sachs. And again, I just want to note for the record that this was going to cost us $11,000 under the original amount. So we're now about $12,000 out of pocket for this repair. All right, next item, authorization to sell online, 2003 Z mower.
Okay, so Tommy would like to sell their old mower. He thinks we might be able to get $2,000 for it. I pulled some recent completed auctions for 2023 mowers, and the winning bids ranged anywhere between $260 and $5,700. What I'd be asking the board is authorization to sell and whether or not you'd like to put a minimum bid price, which we would be recommending $500 for this item.
Any discussion from the board?
Why are we selling the mower?
It was replaced last year, so it's right now it's additional, and let's just say it's not in tip-top shape, but which is basically the theme of all three of these items.
So they all have replacements already?
Yes.
They're kind of duplicates just
Yeah,
hanging out?
yes.
Okay, all right.
And just so the board's aware, if we get bids and we don't hit the minimum bid requirement, the board still could choose to accept that bid, or we could just rerun it and, so.
Yeah, just for the record, I think it's showing a little over 1,000 hours on the mower.
Yes.
Right, yeah, okay.
Well, I'll go ahead and make the motion. I move to authorize the sale of the 2003 Z-Mower via municipal at a minimum bid price of $500.
I'll second.
Thank you. Supervisor Hexter made the motion. Supervisor Halter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right. Next item is another item, a 2004 Ford F-350 utility truck.
So this is another vehicle that was replaced when we received our truck at the beginning of this year. Tommy thinks we might be able to get $5,000 for it. Once again, I pulled some recently completed auctions for similar Ford F-350s, utility bodies, and the Whitting's bridges range between $2,900 and $9,100. We're recommending a minimum bid price of $5,000 for this item.
So just to clarify, if someone bids $4,900, then it'll come back to us and we can say, sure, we'll accept it. We don't have to start over again.
I believe so, yes.
Legally, yes, I don't know what.
Yes, yes. So with any of these bids, the board will essentially, the way we'll word the bids is that the board will be accepting the highest bid to move forward with any sale. So, but at that point, you guys could accept a bid that if it didn't hit the minimum amount, if you so choose.
Any discussion?
So again, just for the record, this is showing 139,000 miles on the odometer, right? That's what I'm looking at.
I believe so.
Yep.
Yes. Basically, the pictures I provided you is what we're going to be using for municipal bid.
Basically, it's sitting now, right?
Those two, both the vehicles are sitting, they've been sitting on, behind the building here, and the mower's down at the sewer plant.
Right.
Yep.
Someone like to make the motion?
Sure. Chuck Geiser, I'll move to authorize the sale of a 2004 Ford F-350 utility truck via municipal bid at a minimum bid price of $5,000.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Supervisor Yiser made the motion. Supervisor Holter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, that brings us to another item, a 2006 Police Ford Explorer. And what are you proposing? Wow, $1,000.
Yeah, so quite frankly, due to the age of this police vehicle, there wasn't a lot to pull from. Usually, police vehicles have a shelf life of 5 to 10 years, so I found between $1,250 and $3,000. So I figure if we do a minimum bid price of 1,000 but I imagine we may just take what we can get for this one.
And everything's been stripped out.
All the equipment's been stripped out. The only thing, and I discussed with Jason prior, that before we accept anything, we just have to take the decals.
Yeah, for either,
lettering off.
yeah, for any of the vehicles, we'll be removing the lower Fred, so there won't be lower Frederick, any kind of logo or writing on those vehicles.
Okay. Any discussion on this? Okay, would someone like to make the motion?
I move to authorize the sale of the 2006 Police Ford Explorer via municipal bid at a minimum bid price of $1,000.
Thank you, and I will second that. Supervisor Holter made the motion, Supervisor Hexter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Well, I'm really glad we're on this program of regularly replacing our very, very, very old equipment. And I know it's expensive, but it's important, so hopefully this will get us on a good track in the future. All right, that brings us to the end of the business portion of our meeting, and now that brings us to public comment. All right, no public comment. Supervisor comment. Carrie, you want to?
Sure, I'll start. Final call for the blood drive. It's on Thursday. We have about 10 slots still open, so please come and donate. Wanted to give a special thanks to Becky from the office. She's helped a lot with organizing this and getting the word out there. Thank you, everyone, for sharing it. We're hoping that we fill it by Thursday morning. So if you're around Thursday and you didn't sign up, just stop in. I'm sure they'll open you up and take some blood. Thank you.
And drink a lot of water in advance. And I just want to have a shout out to all of our volunteers on all of our boards and commissions, to our volunteer firefighters, to all the volunteers in the township that contribute to making this a really great quality of life and a safe quality of life. I know you don't get paid and you work hard to provide great events and great quality education and other things for us. So just thanks to all of you.
Well, I'm gonna think the thank you is owed to Diane for arranging the bird walk this past Saturday over at Meng Sanctuary with Valley Forge. It was very good. We had about 20 people, and it was very nice, and we learned a lot about some birds, a lot about geology, and some history. So it was a lot of fun. Thank you very much, Diane.
Anyone else like to have anything to say? No. All right, the meeting is adjourned. Get out your umbrellas.